Southern Utah.
This week's episode of the Storm the Sky podcast is presented by Pallet Bakery. Pallet Bakery is a proud sponsor of SU Athletics and the Storm the Sky podcast. Pallet Bakery and Ice Cream Parlor offers special promotions to SU students and staff. Just show your school ID for buy one, get one half off deals at Pallet Bakery, located at 255 North Main Street, across from Main Street Park. And I'll tell you what, I can always go for some Pallet ice cream, man. That stuff is very good. Coming up here on episode 4 of the Storm the Sky podcast, we've got a one-on-one interview with SUU SAAC president Jacob Francis. Jacob gives us some great insight on what SUU SAAC is working on this upcoming semester and how he got into the position he did. So check it out. Coming up, Jacob Francis, SUU SAAC, starts right now. Welcome back into the Storm the Sky podcast here, SUUTbirds.com. Bryson Lester here with you, and today we are joined by SUU SAAC President Jacob Francis. Jacob, thank you for taking some time to visit with us today and fill us in on all things SUU SAAC. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
And before we get going, congratulations. You just became a father, not like a week ago, a couple weeks ago, right? How's
I think like 9 days.
How's that been for you, man? How's that going?
It's going good. Trying to adjust to sleeping, or I should say not sleeping, but no, it's been great. Yeah, he's doing great. I'm actually babysitting him right now. Mom's out running some errands. So, yeah, definitely been an adventure in our life, but we're super excited and we love the little guy.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's super exciting for you guys. Well, we'll kind of just get going here. All things SAAC, obviously the Student Athlete Advisory Committee here on campus. Kind of take me back for you to the beginning with SAAC, kind of how you initially got involved and how you started working your way up through the SAAC here at SUU.
Yeah, so it would have been, 2 years ago. So this is my third year in SAAC total. So 2 years ago, Linnea Saltz, who was the president last year, but at the time she was just the secretary. She came to me on the cross-country team and just voiced her concern that there wasn't really anyone at the moment on the cross-country team that was a SAAC representative. So she just asked me if I'd like to get involved, which I thought was a super great way. I grew up doing like student government and those kind of things. So being in athletics, it was kind of hard not being able to do those in college. But then once I found out about SAAC, I realized that was my way to be able to get back into, that student government-like position. So I was there just as a representative my first year. And then last year, I was still just like a representative, but Linnea, the president, she couldn't go to the SAAC meeting over the summer. So she asked me if I would be willing to step in for her and go to that. So that was super awesome. I got to go to Missoula last year for 3 days with all the other presidents from the other Big Sky schools and just get to meet them and have a 3-day conference about just how to become a better leader and how to be able to advocate better for the athletes. So after that meeting, that's when I realized, you know what, I think I'd like to become, try to work my way up to maybe become the president the next year, and things ended up working out.
That's awesome. And you mentioned obviously being able to be with that Big Sky group really helped you, stay involved and want to pursue being the president. What were some of the specific things that you learned that week working with all those other student athletes that really pushed you to want to keep involved with SAAC?
I think my first year in SAAC, I just saw it as just like, it's this small thing that just happens at SUU and basically we just do service projects. Mm-hmm. But as I went to this meeting, I realized that we as student athletes actually have a voice, right? That we can voice our opinions to the president of the Big Sky and he takes those concerns to the NCAA and they'll be able to say what I think should be important. he's able to voice that opinion. And one of the cool things is his Justice Luttrell is the Big Sky SAAC president. He recently became the D1 SAAC president as well. So it's kind of cool that we have with the D1 SAAC president for the entire NCAA. So as I realized that it was much bigger than just SUU, that our voice at SUU actually can make an impact with all the Power 5 schools and those kind of conferences, that's when I really got excited.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Bullock Drug. Thank you to Bullock Drug for being a proud sponsor of Southern Utah University Athletics and the Storm the Sky podcast. Bullock Drug is located in downtown Cedar City, and Township Pharmacy is located near the hospital just off North Main in Cedar City. All your prescription needs and much more can be cared for at both locations. Bullock Drug and Township Pharmacy, proud supporters of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now back to the show. Going into this year, obviously, as the president, how has your mindset changed about SAAC, and kind of what are some of your biggest goals this year, and what are you guys really hoping to get accomplished?
Yeah, so one of my big goals is to just make sure that the reps understand what their job is and that they are important. Because like I said, my first year, I didn't really understand why I was there. So just kind of making sure that they know and that they have a voice, and that their teams know that everyone on those teams has voices, and that if they want something to change, then they just need to speak up. So last year and this year, the SAAC, for the Big Sky, we've been kind of hitting on mental health. But this year, obviously, with everything that's been happening, we kind of are going to still try to hit that mental health aspect, but I think we're going to also talk about the social injustice that's happening within the country. So we haven't touched a whole lot on that because it's obviously something really recent and we're just barely getting back to campus, but be looking forward to doing some more things, not only with the mental health aspect, but also that social injustice.
We just had Debbie on the last episode with us, and she was talking about, the social injustice and the diversity committee SUU has put together, both athletics, and there's one on campus, obviously. So I'm sure you guys will be working closely with those groups to get some things accomplished here, right?
Yeah. So I know Sonia, who I believe's over, at least helping with the diversity groups and those kind of things. She just had a meeting with Kirsten last week, who's my advisor. I'm giving Kirsten the week off so that way she can just get school going, because I know she's been super swamped.
That was nice of you.
Yeah, I did touch base with her a couple of days ago about that. And so we have a meeting scheduled for later this week to talk about everything that they had talked about in that diversity. And I know she just said that that's definitely going to be one of our focus points, especially considering the amount of athletes we have that are being affected by this.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Pioneer Floor Coverings and Design. Pioneer Floor Coverings and Design Center is the premier flooring provider in Southern Utah. Stop into their Cedar City store located on Sage Drive to find amazing prices, unique design options, and incredible service for all your flooring needs. Pioneer Floor Coverings and Design, a proud supporter of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now back to the show. You were touching on the mental health aspect. The Big Sky's done a great job the past couple of years, really being big advocates in the NCAA for student-athlete mental health. Talk to me about some of the things that have impressed you about what you've seen happen both on campus and in the Big Sky in regards to the mental health push.
I think one of the big things that I've really noticed is just, last year it was like the break the stigma was kind of like the theme, and I really think that has happened where it's people aren't as ashamed to say, I have depression or I deal with these mental health issues. Like, that's a part of who I am, but I don't have to be ashamed of that. And so now they're able to open up about those things, realize they're not alone. This is a lot more common thing than they thought, and they're being able to get the help that they need. So I think that's like the biggest thing that I've noticed is just the fact that our idea of, oh no, they have mental health issues, rather than, okay, you know what? Yeah, you have it. And you know what? We can help you with that, and you can still be a great athlete.
No, it's really important. And, you see it on the college level a lot. You see it becoming more common in professional sports. You look at Dak Prescott just a week ago, came out and, really put himself out there and was really vulnerable about the issues he had. And it's really cool to see athletes really taking ownership of the mental health side of sports, because I think that's something that a lot of fans just forget about. It's hard to be an athlete, and it takes a big toll on you.
Yeah, I think a lot of times they think that like athletes are just like Superman and Superwoman, like they're perfect. They don't have any trials. Like their life's just great. But I mean, through whether it be injuries or whether it be just ups and downs within seasons, like those mental, like no one's immune to those. Like we all are susceptible to having those different health problems. And so just making it come to light is, I think, a really big thing.
Tell me about the group you've got on SAAC, kind of the committee you've got, the people you got that you're working with on a day in and day out basis to get things done here.
Yeah. So this year, one of the big things we wanted to do was to make sure that we had multiple representatives from every sport. Because in the years past, sometimes there's only been like one rep from a sport, which makes it really hard if they're dropping the ball or if they can't make a meeting, then it's not just them that's suffering, it's their whole entire team because they're missing out. So we have a great group. We have at least 2 reps from every team. Some of the bigger teams like football, they've got 4 reps, which I think is going to be a great help. And yeah, we've had 1 Zoom meeting so far. We're hoping to have an in-person meeting here in the next couple weeks, depending on what the COVID regulations are. But yeah, so one of the big things that we want to kind of establish is, where this kind of chain of command, I guess you could say, where not just one person like myself has to be over everyone, right? But we have an executive board with a secretary, and then vice president and a bunch of other committee members. So to help them kind of be over a sport. So that way each sport has someone that they can go to if they have questions. They can feel more personalized instead of being like, oh, maybe Jacob doesn't know about us because he's worrying about, 12 different sports right now. That it's, I'm over 3 sports. My vice president's over 3 sports. And so that way we can really focus and give the attention I think that each sport needs, rather than kind of putting this giant blanket over every sport and not getting them the attention that they need.
Take me behind the scenes a little bit of what SAAC meetings are like, because obviously for just general fans of NCAA sports, they hear like, oh, NCAA SAAC has been integral in, the transfer portal or all these big decisions that are being made across the NCAA. Take me inside a meeting that you guys have and kind of what is being discussed. What are you guys talking about, and what are you trying to get accomplished during those meetings?
Yeah. So last year, especially like when I went to that 3-day meeting, a couple of the big topics were, likeness and imaging. I think that was a big topic that was being hit on. And it was just really cool to have our president sit down and be like, hey, what are you guys' thoughts on this? And watch him take those notes and then have him report to the NCAA D1 SAAC committee and then come back and tell us. And so it was just cool to hear all the different athletes from different schools within our own conference, how those things vary. How some are like, yeah, why aren't we doing this? And then you have other athletes and coaches being like, well, there's obviously downsides to everything. And that's why it hasn't gone super, super smooth. But so it's just been cool to be like, to see that actually starting to come to fruition. It's like, what, these things might happen. Another big one I know they were talking about, which I think was a hot topic here in the conference at least, was, like the whole transgender in sports, and having people voice both sides of their opinions of being like whether they're for it or against it. And so the way that it kind of works is just an open panel. Everyone's just super comfortable with each other. And I think that's the best part is no one's getting hostile. No one's getting upset because you have different opinions. Everyone can just sit and talk about these opinions and understand where each other are coming from, and then try to take the best out of both sides of the opinion.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Jimmy John's, one of our sponsors here on the Storm the Sky podcast. Jimmy John's is a proud supporter of SU Athletics. Get Freaky Fast sandwiches today by ordering online or with the app for Freaky Fast delivery, or visit them at 1001 West 200 North. That's Jimmy John's right here in Cedar City, a proud supporter of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now back to the show. I think that's something that kind of is overlooked in the NCAA is how big of a voice the student athletes can have. And I think one of the things you saw on the football side this late summer was when the football players across the country and the different conferences started putting together groups to put together a list of things they would like to see happen before they play football. And I think the era of the student athletes having a voice is upon us. And I think, it starts a lot with good SAAC leadership on campus.
Yeah, no, I know at least like the Pac-12 was one of the ones that I definitely like followed a lot, and was just super impressed with them saying, you know what? Yeah, I'm an athlete, but that's not who I am. There's a lot more about who I am, and if the human nature of who I am isn't being met in these other things, then you know what? Like it's not worth being an athlete. And so I thought that was really big, and that obviously didn't just come from the administration. That came from the student athletes saying, hey, I don't think this is the way it should be. And then you watch administrations follow suit, being like, you know what, we're going to follow and support our student athletes.
When I was doing some research, just making sure I had all my notes prepared for the interview, I stumbled across the picture of you and Bishop holding the Big Sky Community Service Award from the meetings you've been talking about going up to. Talk to me a little bit about that and just kind of the sense of pride as student athletes you guys take in the community service hours you do, and being able to say, amongst our peers in the Big Sky, we did more than anybody else did.
Yeah, I think one of the comments that was made to me a couple of weeks ago in our first Zoom meeting that I think really, hits home about how important service projects are was the number one question that the other reps had were, how are we going to be able to do service projects this year? What are service projects going to look like? And so I thought that was really cool. That was the number one priority of most of our student athletes is, am I still going to be able to serve this community of Cedar City? So for us, that was a super, to be proud of was we went and we won like SUU as a total in the athletic department. We had more service hours than anyone else. And I know if you talk to any student athlete here on campus, they'll tell you just how much service they've been doing. And so that was one of the first topics we talked about this year was how many hours should we make mandatory? And I know one of the interesting things was we were all talking about it, and Kirsten, she comes from a different, she did college sports, back east and stuff. And when we started saying we're like, yeah, I think 20 hours is not like out of the question for each student athlete during the year. She was kind of mind blown that she's like, really? Like we did like maybe 5 hours. And so I think that's just like the difference is like, we've set that standard of, you know what, we can do service projects throughout the year and we're going to do them. And so it's not like, oh man, we have to do 20 hours. It's like the student athletes are wanting to know how they can get those 20 hours in and if they can do more than that. So that's something super awesome that I like about the student athletes here on campus.
Taking a quick break here to talk about Best Western. Thunderbird fans, if you're traveling in from out of town, be sure to book your next stay at Best Western Plus or Best Western Town and Country Inn. Both are conveniently located only a few blocks from campus and offer a 20% SUU discount. That's Best Western Plus and Best Western Town and Country right here in Cedar City. And now back to the show. It's really cool talking to athletes when their eligibility is up and they talk about, some of their most memorable moments on campus. And for a lot of them, it's, the wins or the big, athletic accomplishments, but you also hear a lot of them talk about, the Shop for a Cop event or something they were able to get out in the community and do. For you, when you look back on some of the community service you've been able to do, what are some of the ones that have really stuck out that have made a big impression on you in your early career here?
Definitely Shop with the Cop. I still have my picture that I took when I went last year, and it's like sitting up in my window right now of me, one of my teammates, Brian Pearson, who's actually the SAAC secretary, with the Shop with the Cop. So that was definitely one of the ones that's just like to be able to see kids in Cedar City And the thing that I noticed was he was probably like 15 or something, this kid, but everything he wanted to get for his little sister. So it was like to see this kid that didn't have very much wanting to give it to someone else. And then one of my other favorite service projects that I did would have been my freshman year. We went to Parowan, and there was like some park in Parowan, and we just cleaned it up. But one of the things I really liked was they mixed all the different sports up. And so I got to meet so many of the different athletes on the different sports teams just from doing this one service project. Got to meet the different coaches. And so I think just through this service project as athletes, like we're able to like broaden our friend group and get to know more people.
No, that's awesome, man. It's been a weird summer. I haven't seen the old track coach Hool over there for a minute. How's he doing? How's he doing in practice right now?
He's doing good. He's trying to figure out ways to make the season. Well, we don't have a season, but trying to make it interesting. He's talked to some of the other coaches in the conference and in the state about doing some virtual races, trying to find courses that are similar. And then we're going to race somewhat of the similar times, just to keep that competitive edge going. But he's good. He's positive. He's looking forward to the future, just taking advantage of the time we have, saying, okay, we can't race right now. Let's build our bases a little bit higher. Let's get in a little bit better shape and just be ready for hopefully an indoor season.
Yeah, it's got to be so tough for you, and you and your teammates, both men's and women's side, just the cross country of all the sports right now is just certainly the one that's kind of most up in the air. Do you, as SAAC president, do you have people coming to you a lot more with questions that you find yourself not having answers to right now?
Oh, every day they're like, so what's the plan? And I'm like, man, that's a good question. But the thing is, I do like that they come to me and they are worried and they are, looking for those answers. And as soon as I find things out, that I'm able to tell them. And every time I tell them I have a meeting with you guys or with the Big Sky SAAC, my teammates are like waiting in anticipation to, hey, what did we find out? What's new? What's happening? But yeah, so it's definitely been hard to like have to just, be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No one knows what's going to happen. And that's the hardest thing about, I think, this whole coronavirus is it's the first time ever really that someone can be like, I have no clue, because we have no idea what's going to happen in a month or 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah. Well, you guys just keep powering through, keep those miles up, keep going. Circling back real quick, I'll make you fast forward a little bit to April when the year is done and graduation's happening and all those type of things. And when you get to that point and you look back, what are you hoping that SAAC accomplished this year? What are you hoping that as a group you guys got done?
One of the big things, because the mental health awareness is like a big that one hits home close to me. I just hope that we can look back and that the awareness of it, that the stigma around it is lifted. That people can just openly talk about these things and that they can know where to go to get the help. So that would be one of the big things. And then the second one would be to just, during this fall semester where, none of us are competing, there's not one sports team out there that's competing, to hopefully try to find some sort of activities to keep all the student athletes engaged, to keep them going. So if I can get a semester together that we can, as SAAC, make some activities and do some things, that way when kids look back and aren't like, they can be like, you know what, I wasn't able to do athletics this semester, but I was able to do some things that I wasn't able to do previously because of athletics. That they can look back on this semester and not be completely devastated on it and be like, you know what, I found other joys and other happiness within this semester.
No, that's awesome, man. That's good stuff right there. Did Coach Lymph have a NIO, a national letter of intent ready for your kid when you brought it home?
Yeah, so he texted me and he was like, you'll be hearing from me in 18 years.
I assumed as much.
Yeah, so we've already talked to him about that. So you know what? I guess that's the game plan. 18 years from now, hopefully we'll have another SUU track and field athlete.
No, that's awesome, man. Hopefully we don't have to cut that up. Hopefully everybody's just cool with that. No, man, we appreciate your time. Jacob, you're doing an awesome job, and I'll speak from the administrative side. We really appreciate everything you're doing, and I know the student athletes really look up to you, and it's going to be a good year. We got some trials and tribulations to get through, but we really appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks, Bryson.
All right, man. We appreciate your time. Thanks for stopping in.
Yep. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks again for tuning into the Storm the Sky podcast. Thanks again to Jacob Francis for taking some time out of his busy schedule to meet with us. We want to thank today's presenting sponsor one more time before we go. Pallet Bakery is a proud supporter of the Storm the Sky podcast. SU students and staff, just show your school ID for buy one, get one half off at Pallet Bakery, located at 255 North Main Street, across from Main Street Park, right here in Cedar City. We'll be back next week for another episode of the Storm the Sky podcast. Until then, take it easy. We'll see you then.